endodontics and applying to become a board certified endodontist it can be a hard process. There's a lot of programs, almost 50 programs, not a lot of spots.
Nope.
Um, and there could be some challenges. Share with us what was the hardest part about this process for you.
The hardest part is just getting the interview. Submitting and everything is easy, but actually standing out is really the hardest part within a sea of very good qualified other applicants, and just trying to get the interview and having something that differentiates you from your other colleagues. I think that's the hardest part. And then also, like, on interview day, if you do get one, trying to seal the deal and, like, making sure that you're a good fit. It's a good fit for you and also a good fit for the program. So I feel like those are the two hardest parts of trying to get into an endodontic program.
So endodontics and becoming an endodontist, there's a process, there's a procedure, and that's even before you apply and even before you get an interview. Stay tuned as we talk to a future board certified endodontist. She's going to share with you how she got selected, and the process that she completed on her way now to become a board certified endodontist. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Dr. Darwin, the new dentist coach, your new dentist coach, with another episode of Ask Dr. Darwin on the New Dentist Podcast Show, where we talk about getting into dental school and getting into dental residencies, right, as a specialist, and then life as a new dentist. Guys, be sure you are continuing to share this information to colleagues, to friends, family members that are considering a career in oral health. A lot of great content here. There's different ways that you can support the channel, not only by joining and subscribing, but also we've got some merchandise. We've got some different ways that you can support the channel. So please do that. Also support us by sharing. Sharing is caring. Very important as well. All right. Also, be sure to stay all the way through to get some great information. We've got some pearls towards the middle and also towards the end that you don't want to miss. And then also, this episode of Ask Dr. Darwin is being brought to you by GetIntoDentalResidency.com. Right here, GetIntoDentalResidency.com, the ultimate resource to help you get prepared with your application and also the interview day. For more details, go down below and check out the link there. All right. So today, special guest, she's smiling. We just started and she's already smiling because she's thinking about the process and the accomplishment that she just completed as getting selected into an endo program. Today we're joined with student Dr. Cristina. Actually, she's not a student doctor. She applied to endo back when she was a student, but she's not a student anymore. She's full-fledged DDS, DMD, and she's going to share with us her process. So, Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How's everything with you?
It's going great. That's not as good as you. After this process that we've been going through together, and then also coming out with the result that
Yeah.
many people who are watching and listening want to have as well. So, for people who are meeting you for the first time, please share a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you're doing now.
So I'm originally from the New York, New Jersey area. I studied at Rutgers for undergrad, my microbial biotechnology. I also have a degree in fashion design from Parsons, so a little bit different way of getting into dentistry. But then I made my way out to Chicago area where I'm currently practicing, where I also went to dental school at Midwestern University. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. And I applied to Endo and I'm lucky I got in. So yeah, so that's what a little bit about me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, lucky is just part of it, right?
Part of yeah, it was a
It's
lot of
just
hard
part
work.
of it. It's a lot of hard work that you put into
Yes.
uh early on, not just these last 2 years,
No.
for these cycles, but early on as well. So yes, luck. There is some luck, but there's a lot of other work
Yeah.
that goes into it, especially for endo. So let's talk a little bit more about endo because there are a lot of people that want to run away from endo. There's probably another specialty like perio that a lot of people are like, oh no, I can't. Nope, nope. But endo, some people have that sentiment as well, but not you. So why endo? Why did you decide endo for you?
Well, ironically, endo is what got me into dentistry. It was an emergency root canal that kind of started my career path into dentistry. But when I was shadowing it and learning more about the specialty, it really resonated with me and my background because my background is a microbial biotechnology major. So knowing that I understand the etiology. There's so much advancement in technology in endo and in dentistry too, but especially in endo. And that was a big love of mine, being that biotech major, being very focused on attention to detail and maintaining that. So, with that fashion degree, really kind of help with that. So I was really trying to find different things that kind of worked with all my backgrounds. Also, I worked in research before going into dentistry. So having that really evidence-based approach to treatment planning and technique. So that was important to me. And just like being a master of one anatomy was really important, that I'm really an expert in one area of dentistry. And that really spoke to me, my personality, how I like to work. So, bringing all that together when I was researching what I liked about not just dentistry, but when I got into for endo, that's really what spoke to me and why I knew even going into dental school, I wanted to specialize.
Yeah, and I think that's key. I mean, a lot of people, students, when they start the D1 year, some may have knowledge about if they want to specialize, especially if their pathway to dentistry was from maybe orthodontics, right? Having braces or having a pediatric dentist treat them when they were much younger, and then maybe shadowing, and maybe that's led them as well to the specialty. So interesting. Yeah, that microbiology and tech background is definitely aspects within the discipline of endo right now. A lot of new technologies, innovations that are really research based as well. So interesting. Well, we're interested in finding out about preparing yourself and your application for this process. So share with us a little bit about how you prepared your application. And if you can remember as early, I don't know, was it as early as D1, D2 year? Just tell us a little bit about, if you can recall, how far back you went to really start getting things together for your application.
Probably this summer, right, going in before D1 year, because I knew I wanted to specialize going in when I was doing the interviews, even for dental school. So what I did was I kind of researched what kind of GPA I needed, what class rank, what were schools interested in my before D1 year, so I could set myself up starting that first semester in the fall to be in the right place. So I knew what where I needed to be, like for class rank wise in the top 20% GPA, that you needed research was important. So making sure could get onto a research uh, study that I wanted to do. And then also like leadership and getting into leadership positions with as a student and volunteering. So all those kind of things. So I could plan things out is what I did. And that's kind of what I followed for the first year for everything. And then I had other goals within that as I kind of researched more. And one of the other things that I did right away was become a member of the AAE. So the whole 4 years of dental school, that was important because I was getting emails, communication when events were that I could go to kind of network with other endodontists and other program directors. So I thought that was really important too.
You guys heard it here. Yes, you should become members of AAE if you are considering endo as part of the thing that you want to do and specialize in for the next 30 or 40 years. Yes, you can do that as a student. yes, you will do it as a resident, but yes, you need to dive deep into the number one organization that's associated with endodontics. You can't be considered a serious candidate or wanting to do endo if you're not a member, or at least have some type of access to membership benefits as a student, right? So I think that's very important. Any other things that you did maybe at your school? I know some schools have what we call externships and internships for dental students that are exploring the specialty programs. Did they have that at your school as well?
No, they didn't. But what I did was to make a point that once I got into my clinic side of my studies, that I became very friendly and with the endodontists on staff, because at our school we don't have any postgraduate residencies. So I made sure to, like, be very friendly with them, pick their brains about what I needed to do, what was their residencies like, even though it was many years ago, but what I needed. And also, like, if there's anybody in the area, if I could shadow them and stuff. So, and also previous alumni that had got on to endo programs, if they knew, and who I could reach out to. So they were a wealth of knowledge. And also, they wrote me very good recommendation letters. So that's also key, to always kind of have, be on good terms with your specialty faculty.
Yeah. I mean, they are a resource. And as you're putting together your application, or just prior to putting together your application, just exploring the discipline, they are a very vital resource that you've got to tap into, right? Don't be afraid, don't be shy, because guess what? Those other 5 classmates that want to do endo, they've already talked to them, probably, or they're not being shy because they understand the importance of
Right.
tapping into that resource, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be helpful. And that's part of the reason why they're there too. They have a love for endo or for pedo or for ortho that they want to share. That's part of their duties and responsibilities, and why they're there as a professor, as a faculty member, because they like to share information more specifically into the specialty. So that's important for you to connect with those people. And also, they may have gone to one or two of the programs that you're applying to, or after connecting with them, you find out, hey, Tufts or Temple or Case Western or BU, these are programs I might want to check out that I maybe didn't have on my list, right?
Hey, this is Dr. Darwin, your new dentist coach. Hey, look, it's residency time. It's residency application time. And the biggest question that a lot of people have is, how do I prepare my application? So look, if you're struggling in getting your information together, your CV, your personal statement, or you're ready but not prepared for your interviews, reach out to me ASAP, right? Through my group, Dental Residency Headquarters, we can help you. We can help you get ready for this residency cycle so that you're able to do this. We want you to match into residency cycle this year, all right? But you got some work to do. If you need some help with that application, shoot me an email at newdentistcoach@gmail.com. newdentistcoach@gmail.com. And through our program called Get Into Dental Residency, we can help you. We can help you, but you got to hurry up, because residency application is right now. So shoot me an email right now. All right, let's get back to this episode.
Which leads me to the next question about how you started to put together and compile your list of programs, because as we've stated, there's almost 50 endo programs throughout the country, and they're in different places, of course, but they have different missions, different purposes, different goals, core values as well. So share with us how you put together your list of endo programs that you wanted to apply to and attend.
So I applied for 2 cycles. My first cycle, I was a third year in dental school. So that was a much smaller list that I had looked at, just a few schools, kind of wanting to go back closer to the East Coast where I was from, and a few here in the Midwest that was close to school. So I just applied to 7 programs, and looking for ones that would possibly take somebody right out of school with no general practice experience. So that was the first time. And then for the second one, which was this application cycle, I definitely broadened it a lot more. I applied to 19 schools. I did as much as in-depth as you can find on each of these programs about who needs a one, if they need a GPR, AGD, that kind of fell out of my list because I knew I was going to be working private practice. So who was okay with that? If there was any other requirements. So you have to look at that. And then I also kind of looked at cost of living. So it kind of also, that kind of took away some areas of the country that are more expensive. So it kind of looking at that and what I could afford also for school. And then also the ADAT. I didn't decide not to take the ADAT, which is a test a few more and more schools are kind of asking for. So that also took about, for me, 8 schools out of my list that I could apply to. So you have to look at all these different factors of like what you want and versus what the schools are requesting from you. And then if you think it's a good fit, then that's kind of how I put my list together.
And keep in mind, that's a good point, that how you put your list together, it's not the right way, it's not the wrong way. It was just your way.
Right.
Based on the things that were important to you, based on the cost of living, the locations of where the schools and where the programs were. Do I have to take an ADAT, take another exam, right? You guys want to take another exam, right? Some people don't. So that can be a decision. And then you also have programs that will differ on who they're wanting to train, as far as those that have experience or those that have dental school experience only, maybe have not done a GPR or AGD or haven't worked for a year or two. All of those factors, like you mentioned, Doc, are going to be different. And depending on where you are in your journey and your application cycle will determine which of those programs you're going to, add to your list. I will also add that many candidates like yourself, as far as determining what programs that they want to go to, will also do a thing that's very important. And we guys were giving you a bonus tip before we even get to the tips, which is going to visit the program. Again, going to visit the program. It has a multitude of effects, not only for your application to help you make a decision whether or not this program is for you, but also you getting a chance and an opportunity to meet individuals in the program, so that when they see your application, they're like, oh, Dr. Christine, oh, so you're Dr. Cristina, yeah, she came last summer. Or, oh, she did a research, or she knows so-and-so in the program, and we met her at the AAA meeting. It's another thing you got to do, but we'll talk about that later. But another reason and a way to help you put together your list of schools, your list of programs, by going to visit the program. So let's put a pin in that, because that's very important as well. Additionally important is, once you've submitted your application, then you're going to be waiting to hear and getting an invitation for interviews, right? And if you guys did not know, ENDO is one of the programs, specialty programs, that does not participate in match, which means they have, not only will they have early interviews, early meaning in the first part of this whole cycle of the year, early as in June and July, maybe some August, but guess what? By August, they're done. So you have to be ready for the next phase, which is the interview phase. So let's talk a little bit about the process that you put together related to how you prepared for the interviews, and also those programs that you heard back from. Because I know there was at least, what was it, about 3? I think there was about 3, but let's let's hear a little bit more about that process and the places that you got invitations. And then the second part of it will be to kind of just share a little bit about some of the questions, how the day was, because every program is different. Just because they say endo doesn't mean they're all the same. Every program conducts interviews differently, and they have different questions, some similar questions, but they also have different questions too.
So, okay. So I'll start with from cycle one. When I only got one interview that cycle, and that was from NYU Langone in Brooklyn. It was they had 1 day interview, and they split that day up into in a morning and an afternoon session. I went to the afternoon session because you could pick. And they had a lunch, so you got to talk to the residents there and the other interviewers, either for the afternoon or the morning. They could stay. So and at that time it was a little overwhelming because I was the only D3 there. Everybody else had been practicing and done AGD, so that was like, wow, that was hard. So I practiced a little bit for that, and I knew certain questions that they were going to ask. And they give you a tour of the clinic, which was in the hospital, which was nice. And then I had the interview, and they asked a lot of questions. For them, they were really interested about, again, always the why endo question was that for that one. And they were really interested in my fashion background, and that since I was from New York area originally, and like what made me go out to the Midwest, and you know, just kind of what my long-term goals within dentistry and in endo were. So they were really interested in that. So those were the kind of questions I was fielding at that interview. And then so now this cycle I had 2 interviews, Tufts, which was in July, and then University of Kentucky, and they couldn't have been very different. But both were nice experiences. So with Tufts, they had, I think, 3 days of interviews, and they were interviewing 7 people per day. I had chose the last day. It was a very informal type of setting. You know, you talk in the morning with breakfast with the residents and just kind of, and the other interviewers, and it was really nice. I found out they were interviewing a lot of people that were still in dental school. They were in their D4 year. It was just myself and one other person that had or started practicing. And then the interview was just really informal. They're asking me like, what was my favorite book that I just read, or the last movie that I saw. One of the program chair was also from New Jersey and went to Rutgers. So we were talking about that, and just, you know, if I still sew or if I make my own clothes and stuff. So they were just kind of getting to know you more as a person. And they, you know, also gave a lovely tour of their, you know, dental clinic, which was nice, and just having lunch and just learning about the program. And at this one, which was nice, you actually got to see the residents work on the patients and basically do a shadowing. So I got to see different techniques, what they were using material wise, and how they kind of approach patient care. So that was really something different that I hadn't seen from when I interviewed at the first cycle. University of Kentucky, very different. There was a social gathering the night before at a local restaurant, which was really a lot of fun, and just getting to talk to the program chair, program director, another person who is part-time faculty that interviewed, and the residents and the other interviewers. So that was nice. Same thing. They usually give, you know, breakfast and lunch, and then touring their facility. There's a lot more. They definitely try to work with all the different specialties there. So they were definitely showing you how the interdisciplinary approaches to dentistry. And then what was different here at Kentucky was that I was interviewed both by the residents and the faculty. So the residents had, you know, they asked why endo. They had a few other interesting questions as to like, if I perforated a tooth, like who would you ask for help first? And just kind of want to know if you were a team player, and are you going to ask run to the attendings to ask, or are you going to ask your co-residents for help first? They wanted to know how I felt about different, price points on rotary systems, and what would would I choose the cheapest or the most expensive? And, you have to kind of be diplomatic with how you answer that. And then the faculty, it was interesting. They, again, why endo, why I wanted to be board certified, if that, because that was a big thing for their program since they are a newer program. But then they also asked me questions about the state of dental education, because they want to know if people would be willing to, go and teach, or, do it part-time. And so it was just a very different type of questions that I was being asked in both, with residents and faculty. So those were my experiences from the 2 cycles for interviews.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned the 2 differences, right? A lot of programs in the past, prior to COVID, would have socials where you had a chance as a candidate and they, as a program, to get to meet you on a more informal / personal basis, either before the actual interview day or after the interview day, or later that second half or the evening part of that interview day. One thing to always keep in mind when you have those situations is that it's still part of the interview. Like, don't get so relaxed that you don't understand and realize you're still part of an interview process, right? They're watching you, they're interacting with you, they're taking notes and sharing those notes. So even if there's a social before the interview day or after the interview day, know that it's still part of the interview, right? And then there are some programs that, don't do a social for whatever reasons, but you will usually get that confirmation as part of the information that you receive during the invitation to those programs. Also interesting to note was the fact that you had a mix of both attending / faculty, including the program director. You'll have one interview, and then the second interview is just with the residents, right? Which can be different for programs. Sometimes the residents and the attendings are together, maybe on a panel of 3 to 4 people, or like University of Kentucky, which is a new program, a new endo program, right? And where you have it separately, right? That tells you that everyone is involved in this selection process. So you must have questions that are geared to everyone: the program director, part-time faculty, full-time faculty, the residents, anyone else who's involved with the process as well. Is very important for you to know, so that you are expecting those types of questions from those individuals. So that's great. You went from 1 interview first cycle to 2 interviews, and a total of 3 programs that you interviewed over the course of the 2 cycles as well. And I'm sure during that process, you were taking notes. You were really getting a chance to maybe find out more about the program, the things that you like, because I will tell you, and others will tell you that have gone through this process, that interview day, not only can it change your life, of course, but that interview day can also change your viewpoint on the program, right? Especially if you have to rank the program. And again, endo is not part of the match / ranking process, meaning as soon as 24 to 48 hours, if not at the end of the interview, they may make you an offer, right? And give you 24 hours to respond. So having gone through the interview day, it's important that you also are making some observations, because you may find out that program A is not as good as program B based on just because of the interview and the vibe and the energy that you have received and been a part of just because of the interview. So it's important for you to take notes, is where to prepare yourself to be able to say, yep, I'm going to pick Kentucky, or nope, I'm not picking Kentucky because Tufts was better for me, or NYU was better for me based on the interview day. It confirmed it, or it left me with some more questions. I'm not sure. That's the importance of the interview for you as a candidate, because you have a job, which is eventually to say yes or no, or make sure that you're at the program. You're saying yes to the program that you really want to be at based on the feedback that you get during the interview day. So there's a lot to kind of digest and kind of do for yourself, besides answer all the great questions with strong answers and follow up and everything else. So good. Any differences between first cycle, second cycles? I know you did. You had 7 programs the first cycle, and then almost 3 times as many for the second cycle. Outside of applying, anything else that was different, or that you saw maybe in the first cycle that said, you know what, I need to do this, or I need to look at this program?
So what happened was there was a lot that happened between D3 and D4 year. We started working on publication for my manuscript and getting that in. So we had submitted it to Journal of Endodontics, and then they didn't take it, but then we submitted it to the International Journal of Endodontics, and that was accepted, and it's now in publication. So that was one thing. I think another very big thing is I was able to attend in person the AAE 23 here in Chicago, and getting to meet a lot of program directors and talking to them, because that also actually changed my list of 19 schools, because some of them, there were some schools I didn't know, but then when I talked to them, like one was down in Georgia, he says, I will not look at you. You just came out of school. You need more time for private practice. So, that came out talking to different ones. So like that really helped too. And then I did actually meet the program director and program chair at Kentucky, and I knew that they were a new program. So I got to ask them a lot of questions in person too about that. So that was really helpful, and really did inform my final list of schools applying. And then also, I added more student leadership and volunteering. So a lot of that had changed from D3 to the D4 year. So that cycle 1 to cycle 2, there was a lot of new things that I added and I can talk about. And definitely also what I learned at AAE was very important, because you got to talk about, what I saw, what I enjoyed. I did network with other endodontists and other people that were applying that I became friends with. So there's a lot that it's very important to go to that and kind of have speaking points to that. And then also, I found you, Dr. Darwin, and working on from just my interviewing and what I should do for like researching the programs and coming prepared. And, people were very impressed, especially at Kentucky, that when I opened my notebook, I had questions already prepared to ask the residents and them. They're like, oh, look at her. She's so prepared. I was like, yes, I am.
You surprised them. You dropped a bomb on them.
I did. So there was a lot of things that changed from cycle 1 to cycle 2 that made me a better applicant and just a stronger applicant too. So,
and again, this is why, it is a process, everyone. It's not something that you're just going to be able to whip your CV together, whip preparing questions and just push button and it's automatic. You're ready to go. It is a process. It's a process for a purpose, right? There's a reason behind that. Not only the purpose of becoming a board certified endodontist, but also it's a process for a reason, because there's a lot that goes into it, right? The programs want to make sure that you as a candidate and a future resident, that they can trust you with not only the rigors of the program, but also with their probably two most important commodities, which is the expertise, the didactic and curriculum and clinical excellence, but also the people that you will be serving and maybe potentially serving as representing that school or that institution, right? Their reputations are very, very important. So they need to make sure that they can trust you with that. So awesome. Any unusual questions or ones maybe that weren't prepared for, or maybe just kind of were different than what you were thinking?
I mean, I did not think I'd be talking about, dental education in the state that we're in and, some of the new dental schools not taking the DAT, but, that kind of threw me. But I'm a very avid reader, not just on dentistry, but on other things. And I do check my emails that come from AGD and ADA about like little news updates. So especially when it comes to interview time, that's a good thing to kind of be reading on like what's happening, even like if there's DSOs, and especially with an endo, like, the big thing is with AI. And I was just on a Ask Me Anything talk that they had with the AAE that I was watching, and it was all about AI and regenerative endo. So having that, knowing what's kind of going on, you don't have to know every little detail about it, but it's really important. They want to make sure you kind of know what's happening and what's going on in dentistry. So that was really helpful. I did not know, but at least, and I tutor, so I do talk to a lot of pre-dents for the DAT. So that also actually helped me to inform me about what's happening in the other world of pre-dental education, because I'm a little bit out of it. I graduated, and I'm applying a residency, but you really don't know. So you just have to be really well rounded and kind of well read during your application cycles, because you just don't know what you're going to get. I mean, I was also asked, like, what movie did I saw? When I said Oppenheimer, like, oh, thank God you didn't see Barbie. I was like, well, if I saw Barbie, would that matter? I was like, would I have not gotten in or something?
Right.
You don't know.
No love for Barbie. Come on.
They're really not.
There are going to be some kids in your chair that you got to do root canals on that might like Barbie, or they may be more relaxed if you say something Barbie-ish. I don't know,
Yeah.
so that's funny. That's funny. After that interview day or those interview days, did you like what was your like summation of how things went? Because we know that interview day can be different than maybe what you expected, but also the feeling, the energy of certain programs because of the people that you're meeting and the vibes that you're getting, right? Did any of that happen where something that you thought was going to be was not there, or was it the opposite? What you expected, it was that and more, which made you really more attracted to the program?
Yeah, Kentucky really stood out. I mean, it wasn't just like it was like Southern hospitality to like the X degree. Like, one of the something happened with like the who was gonna pick up. Like, I guess they were trying to get a bus to pick us all up at the hotels that we were in downtown Lexington. One of the residents stepped up and said, "Oh, I'll take you guys." Like, took our phone numbers, like picked us up, and even like during the interviews and everything, it was just such a really like family atmosphere. And it was even between the interviewees, like we were all just kind of enjoying and like, oh, let's stay in touch. And we formed like a little group to see who got in or like who can help you next cycle. So it was just really amazing just how being kind and helpful was, and like just that really family supportive atmosphere down there. And that's kind of what, I really I loved about it. And that's why when I interviewed, I was like, I'd really be heartbroken if I didn't get in.
Yeah.
Tufts was a great experience too. They were very nice, very professional. I really enjoyed that. And I was a little bit hurt when I didn't get the phone call saying you're in, but I was like, everything happens for a reason. And if I didn't, I'd just reapply next cycle. But they also had a very nice program, and the program director, the residents, they were nice, but I didn't feel the same family feel and the tightness, that like I'm going to be lifelong friends with these residents, and the faculty are going to mentor me even when I'm out of the program. And that's really what I was personally looking for. So
That's key.
yeah.
That's key.
That's what I loved about it.
You want to know that this is a good fit for me. I will be able to thrive and excel in this environment. Yep,
Right.
this place is for me. So, with that being said, where will you be taking your newly and future endo talents to in June of 2024?
I will be in University of Kentucky in Lexington. So yes, that's where I'll be starting my endo residency. I'm so excited.
Yay! Congratulations. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. You're gonna leave a very important mark on Kentucky, not only because of the person that you are, but also because you guys will be the first class that starts and you'll be the first class that finishes. Right?
Yep.
So that's great. That's great. I'm so happy for you. I know you had a preference to maybe stay in the upper northeast.
Would have been nice.
Would have been nice, right? But planes fly and cars can be driven to get back to home base at any time, right?
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is that when you're picking programs, you have to pick programs where you can see yourself living for a few years, be it 2 to 3 years. That was another thing that I probably didn't mention earlier when I chose my list, that if I had to say yes, I would be okay living in that area of the country for 2 years. And also it's a fun adventure, honestly. Dentistry's taking me. I never thought I'd even be in Chicago. I always wanted to stay on the East. So it's
Yeah.
fun. It's not permanent unless you want to make it that way. But
Yeah.
so that was another thing. Yeah, so I'm excited to be down in
So
Lexington.
so with this being a new program at Kentucky, just tell us a little bit about how it's set up as far as tuition, stipend, like how much do you have to pay to do endo, or is it a stipend, or do they give folks scholarships? Like, how does that work for this being a new program?
So since it's a new program, it looks like it will be tuition I'll have to pay. It's not as high as some of the others. It's a little bit
Right.
more reasonably priced. You'll be seeing patients. They have so many patients that they wish they could bring us on earlier, is what they wish.
I bet.
They have a backlog of over 400 patients at the moment we were down there. Yeah. So
Wow.
because there's only 2 dental schools in the whole state.
Yeah.
So there's that. So, you're going to see patient care 4.5 days a week, doing root canals and like also doing apicos and having the didactic work your first year. But they're also allowing for a little bit of moonlighting on the side, which is nice. So you can pay. Luckily enough, cost of living down there is a lot cheaper. So not too bad.
Yeah. So for those of you that are listening and watching and not sure what moonlighting means, it means you can work as a licensed dentist after your residency day, or whether it be in the evening or on weekends, right? Which is unique because some programs do not allow you to, because you may be on call and that call duty is still part of your quote unquote resident duties and responsibilities. So there could be conflicts with being on call and not being able to respond to call because you're doing other things, working, aka working. So that's good. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. What we want to hear now is more about advice, because this has been a process, as we've discussed, and it has not been a process that's just, fill in the blank, say this and that, and that's it. Right. So knowing what you know now and the cycles that you've gone through, the applications that you've submitted, the interviews, the additional training, the research, the meetings and organizational meetings, annual meetings that you've attended, knowing what you know now, what is some advice that you want to share with future or even current applicants that are applying right now for endo?
Well, one, they definitely want to know your why, and you have to be very passionate, and they want to see that passion and why you love endo, because they can tell when people are doing it just because it's something else. So they really want to know that you're committed, and that you're really going to advance the specialty and really contribute to their program and the specialty. That's important because a lot of schools base their success on board certification. So like that's what they want to make sure, see if that's what they're trying to, like, they want to have people for that. So that's the number one, and that's why becoming a member of the AAE is so important, and networking with at the meetings and also with your local endodontists, just to kind of see what they do and just talk to them. If you're still in school, it's really important to have a plan. And that you know that you are going to be president or vice president of taking on student leadership. More and more schools want research. It's getting more competitive for endo. So like that's why you want to have research, even if you're not the primary author. But you do want something that could get published within either, even after you graduate and you're still applying, because that's important. You need to have a good GPA and good rank because they are looking at that. And then you have to decide too for yourself if you're going to do a GPR, AEGD, or work private practice, that's what I chose to do. And then also if you're going to take the ADAT. And if you're going to take the ADAT, you got to kind of time that in when you're taking boards. When does that open up? You have to look and see what kind of the score range is that some of these schools are accepting. So, it's a larger process, and the earlier you do it, it makes it easier. The one tip I would say too, for when you're doing your applications, is to always update your CV after you've done something. So if you've done a volunteer event or you've gotten a new award, that's very helpful. Or you've attended it like a CE or a meeting, always add that because you're going to forget. And they do ask for that too when you look, when you're doing your past application. So that's kind of important to have all those things. And also when you're interviewing, because you're going to need to look at your resume a few times to make sure there's certain points that you're going to want to hit. So for me, like that's what kind of the advice that I could give for that and what I've kind of done. And then also in the back of your mind, if you don't get it, kind of think of things that you could up for next application cycle. Like what could you do for your reapplication? Like where do you need to strengthen? And that would probably be the next kind of thing to kind of go forward with.
Yeah, and all of these are very key points, and they seem very simple and very basic, but they're simple and basic in the point that they're easy not to do as well.
Right.
Especially the updating of the CV.
Yeah.
On a constant basis. Oh, I'll get to it later. I don't care what Dr. Cristina says. She doesn't know my workload. No, she does. That's why she's telling you has a strong recommendation for you to consider, which is update that every week if there's something different.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Which is another reason to be journaling, especially if you're going on endo experiences, externships at your school. If you're one of the D3 or D4 students that have been selected to do a in-school rotation / externship in the endo department, you want to be journaling those experiences for yourself so that you have content for what? For your application, maybe even for your CV as a couple of bullet points showing that you were selected out of, 20 applicants to be one of the dental school externs in the endo department at your school,
Actually, that's a good point, Dr. Darwin. And also, let me to add to that is also make sure you knew what systems you're using, because they will ask, like, at like my school, we used Wave One, and like what operations type of systems, materials, they wanted to ask that. And then my endo department, my faculty were always pushing me because they knew I wanted to specialize, that they made me use the microscope on cases. So I also had that to talk about. So, you want to either, while you're still in school, try to get as much as you can, but also notate what materials and systems and files you're using so you know, because you do want to talk intelligently to your colleagues about what you're using, because they're going to ask your preference or what do you think about something else. So you kind of have to know what's on the market too.
Yeah, and if you can't answer that question, they're going to be like, well, you want to be an endodontist?
Right.
And you don't know file systems? Or maybe not a lot of hands-on experience with it. But I think for some of those programs that do take D4 students, right after graduation, the main thing is demonstrating that you're teachable, right?
Right.
You're
Yeah.
teachable to the point where you haven't done so much endo that you're not willing to be taught new things
Right.
because you've done, endo this way for the last 5 or 6 years, which is a whole other discussion as to how you communicate such if you are in that category, right?
Right.
You're a GP for 5 years and it's like, you know what? I got to do endo now. I got to do endo. Well, one of the questions that may come up is you've been doing a lot of GP endo your way. How do we know that you're going to be able to be taught other ways? So that may come up. But again, journal those experiences. I think that's so important. Cases that you're working on. I know some programs at one point even requested some cases.
I've heard that.
That you've worked on. So another reason to document your experiences, not just journal, but also cases before and after, and a little couple of sentences about what happened, how the case started, what you did, and what the outcome was after 3 and 6 months follow-up. Doc, this has been some great tips, great advice, a great story to your journey. If people have more questions and want to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to reach, for you to be reached?
By email.
Email.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's that email?
It's C Pascale, PASCALE @gmail.com.
There you go. You heard it first. Hopefully you won't hear it last if you have some questions. Catch her now before June 24 starts, because she's going to be in the thick of things.
Exactly.
At Kentucky, at the University of Kentucky. Doc, congratulations. So proud of you. Thanks for allowing me the ability to help you with your process, be your accountability partner. And I agree with you. I think it was one of the things that made a difference for you this cycle, which is now going to allow you to achieve your dream of becoming a board certified endodontist, right?
Yep.
So congrats to you guys. Go to the next video. Go this way. Go wherever it is. Just go to the next video right now. Go right now. That's our time. Love, peace, and smiles. See you on the next video. Go to the next video. Go.